hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraka. And on Street Talk, we did political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside,
Charles Thomas,
Paget Maynard.
All right, man, we got a lot to try to cover tonight, but you got a lady you want to talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about Mary McLeod Bethune, great educator, philanthropist, activist in African American history. Born in Maysfield, South Carolina in 1875 to formerly enslaved parents. She was the 15th of 17 children.
Wow.
And her parents knew right away that they had a prodigy. She was always very bright, learned to read by the age of 4, and they took their meager assets and made sure that she received an education that the rest of the children could receive. And it probably started her on her way to becoming an educator because she would come home from school and teach her siblings and her parents what she was learning at school.
Oh, wow.
Once she left South Carolina, she matriculated to Moody College in Chicago after she graduated high school, got her teaching certificate, then went down to Daytona and had the audacity to start a school with no money in her pocket.
Okay.
She wanted a first-class college education for young black women so they could become teachers and kind of replicate what she did in her younger days. You know, the African proverb, each one teach one. And she went out to the community and she raised funds. She was able to get funds from Nelson Rockefeller, from the Gamble family, the Procter & Gamble Corporation, many other philanthropists at that time helped fund her and get her school started. And she eventually, within a year or two, added men, so it became a co-ed existence. And it's one of the very first HBCUs. And I'm proud to say, coincidentally, I have a grand uncle who was president of that school for a while in the 60s and 70s, Oswald Brunson, who was a sibling of my grandparents on my father's side of the family. So she was able to raise this money and at the same time become very politically active. She was part of the FDR administration's unofficial black cabinet. And you have to understand, at this time in U.S. history, black folks are almost exclusively voting for the Republican Party because of their role in the ending of enslavement, going from Lincoln forward. And if there's any Fox News viewers out there, don't get it twisted. The white supremacist part of the Democratic Party in the South and their allies throughout the country have remained hateful, anti-black, anti-minority people. They just switched uniforms and they went from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party during the 1960 Civil Rights Movement. But there was no benefit bestowed on Bethune-Cookman university by any of those people. We'll go ahead and say that. But she stressed a practical education for her people, something that could be utilized later, like teaching, like agriculture.
Yep.
She was a protege of Booker T. Washington, and you can see that in her philosophical approach. And she went on in her career to become president of Bethune-Cookman from, I believe it was 1923 to 45, and then from 46 to 48, something like that. She was their president. She also wrote columns throughout the United States, the Pittsburgh Courier-Gazette, the Chicago Defender, the African American Women's Journal. She was a profound and strong leader of our movement long before the Civil Rights era.
Oh yeah.
Someone that we should pour out libations and thank as an ancestor now for all her contributions to our culture.
Yeah, she was quite a woman.
Absolutely.
The lady I'm going to talk about, her name was Miss Edna Galman Cook, born in Tennessee around 1911. Could have been a few years earlier, a few years later, but she was a hell of a guitar player. And she had this thing where she would lead the church choir, and as soon as she get through with the church choir, she'd go down to the
Juke joint.
go down to the juke joints. We call them we used to call them juke joints. Now they're bars. We used to call them juke joints. So she'd go down the juke joint
And to play there.
And do a thing.
To make some money. And she was caught down there. She was caught down there by a couple ladies, but then some of the church people also caught her down there playing and everything, so they kicked her out. Kicked out of the.
That may not have happened today.
The church side. Nowadays, she could be down there dirty rapping. Just bring the money. Bring the 10%.
So they kicked out of the church, and so when they kicked out of the church, she was a hell of a guitar player. Cause see, now when people talk about rock and roll and all of that, they want to say Elvis Presley and Little Richard and people like that. But she was the first one to play rock and roll, and she was a hell of a guitar player, man. So
She been rolling.
yeah, you know. So she would stand on the streets and play her guitar, and they had kicked out of church and everything, and she made the first record, rock and roll, in the 1930s. That
Wow.
was Miss Edna Galman Cook.
There you go.
All right. So, in other words, then, we can't despise our women.
Oh no.
We have to cherish them.
Yeah.
Because there's so much
Oh,
they
yeah.
brought to the table that was kept under a bushel.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I mean, when you look at all these different things, you know, and we would talk about it next week though, but it was the women, man, who did a lot of these things, you know, because as usual, you know, they tried to, you know, hold us down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and women, they had that courage.
I got to tell you
right.
something, man.
Yeah, and you always should respect. Like the men are here because of women.
Yeah.
They are the gateway.
Yeah.
And to disrespect women like they're being disrespected now is something that we got to fix.
Yeah.
You know, because they're the glory of the black man.
Yeah.
It shows the destruction and degradation of our culture. The way our women are referred to on the airwaves and in music nowadays.
Yep.
It's just
Oh,
a
yeah.
shame. And you know the thing about it really gets me, it's a little bit off topic, but you hear no other culture out there singing or rapping and calling their women the names
Mhm.
that these young black men do.
Yeah.
Or it's even some of these women, young black women who call themselves,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
themselves, you know, the Cardi B's of the world, some of
Yeah.
these other
It's-
ones.
Yeah.
It's profane.
It's ridiculous.
It's degrading. It's shameful.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where they stand. I don't know how they stand in the mirror and look at
Right,
themselves.
yeah.
Because you don't hear Asian people calling
Oh,
their
no.
women those names.
No. Right.
You don't hear Jewish people calling their women those
Italians,
names.
no.
You don't hear no other
No.
ethnic group does that
Right.
except for these African Americans.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, it's a way to pull themselves up out of poverty.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We've had a couple generations of hip hop stars now, and if you look at some of the wealth that they've accumulated, you're starting to see some of these guys you never even heard of, little Big Head, little
Yeah.
Nas, this and that.
Yeah, yeah.
And these cats are worth several hundred
Yeah.
millions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks to you know, owning their publishing rights, et cetera, et cetera. I don't
Illuminati.
begrudge them at all. But you've got the money now to go out there and make music that people enjoy and dance to and nod their head to without degrading your mother and your sisters.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sorry,
Yeah.
you just don't need to do
Yeah.
that. And you don't need to call me the N-word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I could be your brother.
Yeah. I was watching. Oh, this is last year before last. I was watching CNN, and the black guy that comes on CNN, he comes on at 10 o'clock at night.
Don Lemon.
Don Lemon. He was interviewing. What's the two guys who made this record back in, I guess it was the 80s? This old with this white guy. What's the name?
What's
of
the song?
Walk This Way?
Yeah, Walk This Way.
Yeah.
And he was interviewing one of
You
them.
good.
He was interviewing.
I've known him out a long time, man. You got to pick up.
In between the lines.
he was the lightest one. I forget his name, but anyway, he had made $300 and some million, and Don Lemon was asking, well, why can't you now change and because he's got people now making records and he's like, well, I just let them if that's that.
Express themselves.
Yeah.
That's always been the excuse,
Yeah.
self-expression.
Yeah, that's
It's always
excuse.
been an excuse, and there's no cultural price to pay, because there used to be a time when our young people would be chastised by the elders. I know I was.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I would do something out of pocket and thinking I was slick. And by the time I got home, Mom and Pops was fully apprised of my daily activities.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that when you were shorty, a small kid,
Yeah.
the neighbor woman might take some action
Hey,
to
yeah.
Oh,
repair
yeah.
your attitude
Yeah.
that was taken at home.
Yeah.
But I think we've lost a lot of those. And please don't construe this to say I believe in beating children, because I don't think that's African.
No,
but
no.
I think it's also important that you correct and chastise and teach at the moment that the wrong is done. And we've got too many people who are afraid of our children.
Yeah.
Don't want
Oh,
to say
yeah.
anything
Right.
to them.
Or it's cute.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
You see these
And
little
she's looking at
kids,
her, she's dancing on the
Yeah,
pole.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's
yeah.
her future.
Look,
Yeah.
she's on TikTok.
Yeah.
they got these little kids, this little chubby girl that Honey Boo Boo
Yeah.
up there with all her stupidity,
Yeah.
and they're making so much out of it as if this was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Well-
getting some money coming in. I guess that was the great part,
Well,
the money.
well,
But man, what is she gonna do after?
Well, the thing is, man, is that we in a stage now in the last 20, 25, 30 years where all this kind of stuff is fun and it's great, and it's like we can't say, wait a minute, that's how we got into this, this thing of calling each other all these names and everything, because here's somebody over here and he might have wanted to do something without this N and all these H's and all this in it, but the guy who was shelling out the money, said no, do this,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You had A&Rs going out there looking for talent, which is legion in the culture, and finding these talented young men and women and then telling them once you get on the label, you can't talk about
Yeah.
that. Because it used to be a time where some of these hip hop artists like Ice Cube, NWA, others, I don't need to list them all, weren't just profane and critical of their own women and brothers and sisters.
Oh, yeah.
They had something to say about other ethnic groups.
Yep.
They had something to say about the police.
Yep.
There's a famous song, F the Police, that was made by.
Yep.
Well, they put a stop to all that.
Oh, yeah.
You do not hear those things
Oh, no,
anymore.
no.
So it's like, okay, you want to express yourself, talk about your little cousin over there.
Right.
Talk about your little sister over there. Talk about your mama. But you can't talk about anybody else that way. And these fools go right along with it.
But
It's unlistenable.
But see, the thing that bugs me is that you mentioned a while ago, all these people out here with money, they could have their own production and every label and all these things, and just like I said about the guy that did this old rap record, these two guys, he's made $300-something million, and still I can't tell him. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a producer now. You're talking about Simmons.
yeah.
Bear in mind something. We have a saying, money talks. You want the money, you're going to do it the way we want it. Now then, there's this movement they call Illuminati. And allegedly, if you want to make it in the industry, you have to be a member of the Illuminati.
Right.
However, the Illuminati is, how nicely to say it, kind of
Corrupt. Organized crime.
maybe corrupt, but satanic.
Mm-hmm.
Satanic influences
Yeah, like sacrifice.
is involved. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody who is a member, but this is what I understand. There's too much of a satanic influence in this.
Well,
But people are so concerned about the money.
Satanic stuff, because I don't go for ghosts and spooks and fantasies. I do believe there's evil in the world, and I do believe that people who profit from evil would like to see that foisted out onto the culture. You can call it a set. You can call it Satan. You could call whatever historical name people have used for evil.
It's negative.
There's influences out there. But the point is, man, that by now there ought to be enough of an emphasis on uplifting the race.
True.
And there ought to be enough economic wherewithal to do so that we don't need to listen to the Illuminati or the Doobidati or the Bilderbergers and all these other spooky ass groups they talk about. Let's talk about what we can do in our own community, irrespective of what they think of us.
Okay.
There's an example this summer. My oldest daughter is home from school in California, and my youngest one was just about to start her college experience in about a month, so we spent the weekend in Chicago together. And there were people everywhere. Well, it turns out there's this big Lollapalooza music event, right?
Yeah.
And at this event, a rapper got up on stage and he used homophobic slurs. And they cut his mic, they took him off stage, and that brother has gone on an apology campaign for saying something disparaging about, I hope you're not gay because you might catch AIDS. Something along that line, which is offensive and inappropriate. But it does not go anywhere. No, you can catch AIDS as a heterosexual. But it goes nowhere near what they say about black men and women routinely. Routinely.
Right.
You know, and women about themselves or about the men that they're supposed to be partners with. It paled in comparison. He's on apology tour. He's seeing his concert opportunities and venues cut out from beneath him for saying that. But I bet the next concert he does, if he calls the first black woman he sees a H or a B, no problem, bruh.
But see, that's the thing, man. That's the thing that just, and
a grown man call himself the baby. I mean,
it's just, man, it's so much.
So
So
you're telling me
Commercials.
you're telling me it's okay for us to degrade
Ourselves.
each other
Yes.
and ourselves,
But no one else.
nobody else.
Yeah.
and everybody else is enjoying that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
And-
entertainment.
Yeah.
And then you'll see some
No.
young white male on TV saying, "Well, why can't I say the N
Yeah.
word?
Yep. Yeah.
They say it all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
I like the music.
yeah.
You know, it's,
Yeah.
why
yeah.
can't they be educated in
Okay.
in what we have done and can do?
So now, if
rather
you
than something like that.
if you Caucasian come and call me the N word, it's a problem.
Right.
But if my buddy here
Yeah.
called me,
Yeah.
hey nigga boy, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, we all right.
Yeah.
It's my buddy.
But see that's why.
We got to get people
But that's
be
why,
more
that's why the education, man, just been snatched away from us.
we
and
need to be
everything.
more self-respecting than we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's the word I was looking for,
Yeah,
Patrick.
I've traveled other places, and because of what we're talking about today,
Mm-hmm.
people in other countries, other nationalities, they look down on us.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they don't even know us.
You know
but
what?
that Hollywood
From
image-
what they listen to.
Right.
The first
Man,
thing.
Chuck, you couldn't have nailed it,
The-
man.
the-
Hollywood.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first.
Hollywood and the music.
Yeah, the
That's
first-
the image that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
sent all over the world.
Yeah.
And that's who we
The
are.
Yeah.
first thing, if you talk to anybody from other countries, and get to know them a little bit, the first thing they'll tell you is that they first seen us was on some stupid movie or something like that. And I was telling somebody that the people we just went over and brought back to U.S.
From Afghanistan.
I'll bet you right now, those people been here, what, 2 months, 3 months? I'll bet you right now, most of them know what the word nigger means.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, to your point, man, there was an old Richard Pryor joke. You probably remember this one
Yeah.
back in the 70s. He was talking about the Vietnamese refugees coming here and learning how to be assimilated to the United States. And he said one of the things they taught him was how to say nigga, nigga, nigga,
Yeah,
nigga, nigga.
yeah.
And he said, well, if you get your ass kicked, you know you passed.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So that's how degraded
Yeah.
we've allowed our culture
Yeah.
to become.
Yeah. You know?
You know,
What
and,
could
and,
we
and
do?
we have responsibility. We have agency for that. You know, you can see where a Caucasian man, if he worked up the nerve to call one of us that, he knows he's ready to knuckle up,
Right.
right?
Right.
So why should it be so easy for us to offend each other?
Yeah. Yeah.
And degrade each
Yeah.
other and talk down to each
Yeah.
other when we should have some kind of barrier that says that's just not right.
But you know,
No,
there's
that's
a
my brother.
problem with
Yeah.
what you said, Dennis. It seems as though we don't take it as degrading, as talking down to.
Well,
we all just accept it
Well, but
as
see-
part of the culture now.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that that's what happened. You know, I was at one of these stores, man, at a store over on Willow Street, and 2 or 3 guys come in the store, you know, nigga. It's like, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm saying to myself, oh man, and they all grinning and going on, and it's like.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it, man. And I'm gonna tell you, when I was coming up, when I was, you know, in that from 11, 12 until I got to be 17, 18, when you call me that,
It's fight. That's fight.
Yeah, we gonna fight time. You know, we gonna fight time.
It
you
was
know,
fight
and,
time.
And now it's all that's my buddy. You know.
Now you see, the question I was asking a while ago, what can we do about it? How could we try to change things? What are the avenues? What do we have to propose to the people instead of what they're doing? Here's the way to go.
Well, I think one thing we could do is educate people on who they really are. I don't think we need to focus on the actual words
Right.
themselves.
Right.
I think we need to focus on the mentality that informs someone that's appropriate, that's okay,
Right.
that's acceptable to call your brother and your sister those kind of names. That's just part of who I am. No, that's not
No.
part of who
Right.
you are.
Right.
That's not what you come
Right.
from. You've been polluted and you've been degraded.
Yeah.
And you don't understand that. So I think it's up to all of us to elevate the culture to a point where people feel shame when they act that way, when
Yeah.
they speak that way.
Yeah.
Right now, there seems to be a lot of shamelessness out there.
Right, right. And I think we all, as a people, we ought to forgive ourselves for being abusive to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
And
key.
and that's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
You know, and until we come to the point of acknowledging that we've been doing something wrong,
Yeah.
we're not going to stop.
Stop. No.
So we have to get to that point.
Point, yeah.
Okay, this is it. Full stop. Period. No more. It's going to take a while, but we got to do what we got to do.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think me and Chuck was talking about was that, you know, now if you, this is years ago, when you would be out here, you know, on the wrong track, saying something wrong and all that, you know, any of these older people, older than you,
They whoop your tail, man.
you know, they would say, oh, no, hey, you know, but now, you know, it's like, oh, what's going on, man? It's like, and if you older, you know, it's like
Oh, yeah.
you
You old
you know,
timers.
you can't get to, you know, you can't even get to
But you
most
see,
of these
Ahmad,
young
that
people.
was the time when people believed in the community.
Yeah.
The adults, all the adults in the community took responsibility for
Yeah.
all of the kids.
Yes.
Your kid, my kid, his kid,
Yeah.
and it was accepted by all.
Oh yeah.
As time went on, and I noticed this in my own country, you notice that girls were getting babies younger and younger. Some of them were kids themselves.
Oh yeah.
They needed more training, more education. But so they didn't have what it takes to pass on to their kids.
Right.
And we find a constant drop off and less of the standard that we were accustomed to being passed on. And now we accept any old piece of crap, any crappy behavior, any crappy talks, and we think that was good. Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah.
No, that's not
Let's
being
take
cute.
it back to what the standard is,
Yeah.
because we've forgotten what the standard is.
Yeah.
And if you look at African history, recent African history, there's well, I won't go into the details of that, but the point is, early in the show we were talking about how our culture comes down through the woman. It's a matriarchal cusp. You also saw specific gender role responsibilities. Young men had to go into training
Yeah.
to be prepared to be a husband and father.
Yep.
It was a formalized training to teach you your responsibilities as a young man who someday should be prepared to take on a wife and treat her in the way that she deserves and take care of your family. The women had the same kind of training.
Right.
Yep.
You had the same type of cohesive culture that throughout the community said to you, it is absolutely unthinkable that you would talk to anybody in your community that way. It's just not acceptable. You would be ostracized and left bereft of resources when it comes to humanity because
yeah.
you'd be put out of the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, we've lost so much of that memory, that cultural memory, that now it's anything goes. You know,
Yep.
you say all the time about these young men walking around with
Yeah.
their pants
Ugh.
down. You know, to me, that's a cultural, generational aspect, but it's still. If you look at where it comes from, you know, the pants being worn down, the prison industrial complex, I don't think anything else other than maybe the N-word shows just how much we've allowed our culture to be degraded and just to rot and fester into where we are now.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be. a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.